Question 4, part A. We're told that the sine of A is 8 over 17. Write down in each case the following as a fraction. So we need to work out sine A, tan A, and cos B. Now in this right angle triangle, this is the right angle, this side is the hypotenuse. So this side is 8. If we want to find the third side, we're going to call that x, and we can use Pythagoras' theorem to find x. So Pythagoras' theorem states that the longest side, 17 squared, is going to be x squared plus 8 squared. 17 squared is 289, and this is x squared plus 64. If you bring the plus 64 from the right over the left, it becomes a minus 64. 289 minus 64 is 225. And if you want to find out what x is, then you have to get the square root of 225. Now using a calculator, x works out as 15. So the sine of A, the sine is the opposite over the hypotenuse. So the sine would be 8 over 17. The tan of A is the opposite over the adjacent. So tan is the opposite over the adjacent. Tan is going to be 8 over 15. The cos of B. Now this is your angle B. So the cos of B is the adjacent over the hypotenuse. So the cos of B would be 8 over 17. In part B then, we want to calculate the value of x, correct the 2 decimal places. If this is your angle, this side is called the adjacent and this side is called the hypotenuse. So we can label this as this side is the adjacent and the x is the hypotenuse. Now cos uses the adjacent and the hypotenuse. So the cos of any angle is the adjacent over the hypotenuse. Here the angle is 55 degrees, so the cos of 55 equals 10 over x. Now on the right hand side we're dividing by x. If we bring that over, we'll multiply. So x cos of 55 equals 10. If you want to get x on its own, we can bring the cos of 55 over and divide. So x is going to be 10 divided by the cos of 55. And this means x then is going to be 17.43. In part C then, the distance from the point P on horizontal ground to the point Q is 42 meters. The angle of elevation from the point P to the point Q is 48 degrees. We have this angle of 48 degrees. We want to calculate the height h, correct to 2 places of decimals. Now, if this is your angle, across from that side is the opposite, and this side is the hypotenuse. So sine uses the opposite and the hypotenuse. So the sine of 48 is going to be h divided by 42. Now, if we want to get h on its own, on the right hand side, we're dividing it by 42. We can bring the 42 across and multiply. And using your calculator, if you type in 42 sine 48 into your calculator, this works out as 31.21 to 2 decimal places. Question 5, we have to draw the graph of the function f of x is 3x squared plus 6x minus 5, and x is between minus 3 and a plus 1. So here the x values are between minus 3 and over to a plus 1. So the first thing we need to do is get to 3x squared, then 6x, and then minus 5 across the board. So we have to square first of all and then multiply by 3. Now minus 3 by minus 3 is 9, and 9 by 3 gives 27. Minus 2 by minus 2 is a plus 4, and then 4 by 3 is 12. Minus 1 by minus 1 is a plus 1, and 1 by 3 is 3. 0 squared is 0, and 0 by 3 is still 0. 1 by 1 is 1, and 1 by 3 is 3. Next of all, we have to multiply each x value by 6. 6 times minus 3 is minus 18. 6 times minus 2 is a minus 12. 6 times minus 1 is a minus 6. 6 times 0 is 0, and 6 times 1 is 6. Next of all, we just put minus 5 across the board. 27, take away 18, take away 5, and that works out as 4. 12s cancel out and you're just left with minus 5. 3 minus 6 is minus 3, and minus 5 is a minus 8. Zeros cancel out and we just got a minus 5. 3 and 6 is 9, 9 take away 5 is 4. So we can write down the coordinates: minus 3, 4, minus 2, minus 5, minus 1, minus 8, 0, minus 5, and 1, 4. So now we're going to plot these. So we'll go across to minus 3 and up to 4. That's your first point. Across to minus 2 and then down to minus 5. Across to minus 1 and down to minus 8. x is 0, and then we go down to a minus 5. And then 1 goes up to 4. So if we just join these dots, we get this quadratic curve. And then use a graph to estimate the coordinates of the minimum value of the function. Okay. So in part 1, if you want to get the minimum, we just go across here, and that goes across to minus 8. That's the y coordinate, it's minus 8, and the x coordinate will be minus 1. So this would be minus 1 minus 8. Next of all, find the value of f of minus 2.5. So normally we have an x here. So x is minus 2.5. So if we go across the x where it's minus 2.5, if we draw a line down and across, and that brings you over to this y value here. So that y value looks like it's about minus 1.5. So f of minus 2.5 is a minus 1.5. The roots of the equation are where the graph crosses the x-axis. So it crosses it here and here. So that's about minus 2.6, and that's about 0.6. So there's the roots. Question 6 then, the diagram shows a triangle ABC in which AB is 11, AC is 7, and the measure of the angle BAC is 100 degrees. So we want to calculate the area of the triangle. So the area of any triangle is a half AB sine C. So what you need to have is two sides and the angle in between. We have this side of 11, this side of 7, and the angle in between is 100. So it's going to be a half of 11 by 7 by the sine of 100. And if you put that into your calculator, that gives you an area of 38 centimeters squared. Part 2 then, calculate the length of the side BC correct to 1 decimal place. So we're going to have to use the cosine rule, and the cosine rule states a squared is b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cos a. This side we don't know, we're going to call this some side a. If this is the side a, then this is the angle a. And we can call, it doesn't matter about the b and c. If we call this the side b, this would be then the side c. So this means then that a squared is going to be b is 11 squared plus c is 7 squared minus 2 times 11 by 7 times the cos of 100. Now everything on the right hand side, if you just put that into your calculator, that works out as 196.7418. And that's what a squared is. To find a then you get the square root of that. So using your calculator then, that works out as 14.0 to 1 decimal place.